in today's world of fake news, misinformation, what else we have, what we all need are credible sources. And the reason I talk about Jim's background with the Pentagon, the White House, Congress, the CIA, and Department of Defense, he's an insider's insider. So we need credible resources today.
Around page 270, toward the end of the book, there's a whole section on Ukraine, Russia, and using natural gas as a weapon. Now, this wasn't 2014 when they took Crimea, or 2020 when the invasion was being prepared, or 2022 when it broke out. This was 2011. 11 years ago, I was saying this is going to be used as a weapon, and here it comes. So it's kind of interesting that the war was completely unnecessary. And I can say you saw it coming 10 years away.
You've always sounded the drum, like the dum, 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 dum. You've been warning everybody, warning everybody, warning everybody. But in the last, I would say, year, your pounding has gotten louder. The message is similar, but your warnings are more dire, louder, more direct. So that's what we want to talk to you about today, is how dire are we? Where are we today? What is happening? Yep. You talked about Executive Order 14067. What is your concern on Executive Order, which was just signed with Biden and company only a few months ago? What is your concern, 14067?
It has a number of parts, and the thing with executive orders, or for that matter, legislation, I could say you have to read the fine print, and you do, but you have to actually consider the hidden agendas. I can read it, anyone can read it, it's a public document, but what's behind it and where they're going with it, and that's really where the urgency comes in. It's basically an order that accelerates the U.S. movement towards a central bank digital currency, so-called CBDC. These are happening all over the world. Beijing already has one. They're past the prototype stage. They kind of rolled that out during the Winter Olympics, last February. Believe it or not, the Bahamas has a digital currency. There are a few other countries that have already gone in that direction. The European Central Bank is very far along. The U.S. and the Federal Reserve, because they print the currency, they understood the importance of it. They were watching it, but they were kind of taking their time, like, hey, we're the biggest payment currency, biggest reserve currency in the world, which the dollar is, and we don't want to race into something if it's not thought out. And they were doing a kind of a joint venture R&D program with MIT. Okay, they got some experts there, so that seems to make sense. But all of a sudden, they accelerated it. And they said, no, we got to move fast on this, and we got to catch up. And that's what 14067 was about. But that's kind of what you could get from reading. But what's the hidden agenda? Well, first of all, just a little bit of background on central bank digital currencies. It's still the dollar. A digital dollar is still a dollar. A digital Chinese yuan is still a yuan. A digital euro is still a euro. So it's not a new currency, but it is a new payment channel, and it is a new form of the currency, if you want to think of it that way, even though it's still the dollar. And it goes hand in hand with getting rid of cash. In other words, I'll spend, in a minute, we'll get into what the central bank digital currency, what the hidden agenda is behind that. But as I go through the list of, really bad things that can happen, you say, well, okay, but I still got cash. I can go down to the bank and get whatever, $10,000 or $100,000 in cash. By the way, that's not easy to do. I say that. It's legal. It's not illegal, but try doing it. They'll tell you to come back, make an appointment. They don't have that much money. They got to ship it in. You better show up with like your birth certificate and 5 character witnesses, and then they'll report you. They'll report you to the Treasury, actually the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, knows the word crime, FinCEN for short, Northern Virginia, and you'll go in a file next to, Ayman al-Zawahiri. So it's not so easy to get your cash, but you can in theory, and that's the alternative. So they have to not only push the digital currency agenda, which we'll talk about in a minute, but they have to get rid of cash, because as long as you have cash, you can do an end run around this. So these two things are coming down the track pretty fast. Now, flipping back to the central bank digital currency, it's not a cryptocurrency. It's not on a blockchain. A blockchain is just a ledger. They've been around since the 80s, no big deal. But this ledger will be maintained by somebody, probably the Federal Reserve, but there could be a new government agency doing it. It's kind of like a bank account. So we might quickly end up in a world where, I have an account at a bank, you guys have accounts at banks. Well, those banks are either members of the Federal Reserve System, or they're smaller banks that are correspondents of bigger banks that are members of the Federal Reserve System, like Bank of America or Wells Fargo. Heaven help you with Wells Fargo. But the point being, the banks kind of keep all the books. We might be in a world where you would have an account at the Fed. Everyone listening would have an account at the Fed. We'd have it on our iPhone or our Samsung or whatever our mobile phone is. And if I send you money, the Fed takes it out of my account and sends it to your account. End of story. Kind of like a Venmo type of thing with, larger denominations, et cetera. That has implications in terms of disintermediating the banks. Like if you can do that, which you can technically, who needs banks? But the selling point is, well, it's better, faster, cheaper. Okay. Which it is.